Shalom Israel, Shalom Shalom. It's Ak Kazamak, Brother Kazamak, on the Gregorian date of September 6th. It is the preparation day, what the world calls Friday, and that's day number 6. A quick thought today after my reading time and time with the Father, and maybe I'll do more of these. I'm not going to commit to that or put that out there, but I do notice this a lot, being that I spent over 20 years in the Christian church. I remember a lot of the sayings. I remember a lot of the favorite verses of the Christian church. And the point is not to come on here and just basically condemn and bash everything that happened or was done in the Christian church. But from time to time, I will, as the Spirit reminds me of things that were said. Oftentimes, He takes me to that place in the Scripture, or as I'm reading, I come across where a popular saying came from, and realize that most often, not all the time, but most often, it is it's always partial. I said always, but I didn't mean always. Often it is a partial verse. It is part of a verse. And so when you talk to someone in regards to this truth, in regards to who we are, who the scriptures are written by and written to and written for, and we oftentimes, we being the defenders of the true gospel, get accused of cherry picking. We pick cherries because we go from place to place and put things together. Even though in Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 10, it says that line must be upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. And so we're actually, that is the formula that we actually have to use to find out what the Bible is actually saying. We piece it together like a puzzle. So while context is extremely important, reading a little bit before or after a verse to make sure you get the context. First of all, what was happening at that time, because a lot of times that's important, but also to get the whole ideal of what's being said. But to put that together with verses otherwhere, or what's something that's said in another place that's saying the same thing, so that every word can be established between, with 2 or 3 witnesses. So today, what I'm going to touch on is just, there are 2 verses that I was reading in Psalms. And again, it was, I just remember hearing this a lot in the Christian church and didn't realize it was a half a verse. And so again, even I was guilty. I was guilty of, one, just listening to what people said and taking their word for it, not really digging in and reading for myself, but also 2, not checking what people said. Even because, there's a lot in here. So even if, even though I do read now, I don't know it by heart back to front. Right. So there's going to be some things that even if I read them, I might forget or might come at a later time or might be highlighted here and there. And that's fine. I got it's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm a human being. And some people have photographic memories. I do not. I forget things. And it's not a problem for me because a lot of times when the Father brings them back to me, it's at a time where it's needed. And it really blesses me, even if I had read it before or if I do remember reading it. A lot of times he just does neat things for like that for me. So this is Psalms chapter 103. Psalms chapter 103. And if you listen to any of my videos, you know that I am big on the commandments, keeping commandments. That does not negate faith in Yahweh Shai or in the Messiah. That does not negate that. They go hand in hand, as told to us in the book of Revelations, chapter 14, verse 12, that you have to have faith in Messiah and keep his commandments. And that's just probably the most popular. There are many other places that talk about that. Again, line upon line, precept upon precept. That's not the only place that says that, but that's probably one of the most popular places. So Psalm chapter 103, starting at verse 17, it says, "But the mercy of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting. And that's what I always used to hear. That's one of the things I used to hear. God's mercies from everlasting to everlasting. And that's all I would hear. His mercies from everlasting to everlasting. Well, today, as I was reading this whole chapter of Psalms and got past that first half of verse 17, here's what it says. Upon them that fear him, and his righteousness unto children's children. So then verse 18, so unto them that fear him, we can, I believe I've talked about what it means to fear the Most High. There are popular definitions or explanations saying, well, that's just to have a reverential fear of him. But the Bible tells us how we prove that we fear him, even if it does mean reverential fear or respect or honor. The Bible tells us in many places that we fear him by keeping his commandments, but we're not, but that's, I've talked about that before as well. But listen to verse 18, because it tells us. So it says again, verse 17, but the mercy of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting upon them that fear him. So not on everybody. The mercy of the Lord that's from everlasting to everlasting ain't on everybody. It's on them that fear him. And his righteousness unto children's children. To who? Verse 18. To such as keep his covenant. And to those that remember his commandments. And that's not even the end of the verse. But many people would stop there even. Because it's just saying, well, we have to just keep his commandments in mind. But that's not what it says. It finishes out by saying, to do them. We have to do them to the best of our ability. I get it. We're human and nobody's perfect and we're all going to make mistakes. I get that. That is no excuse to not do them. There's no excuse. If I give my son direction, and we could say a commandment, but I give him a direction or instruction, I expect him to do it. Even if sometimes he doesn't do it to my liking and I have to correct the way that he did it so he does it better, he still gets credit that he tried. He did what I asked him to do. Maybe not to my liking. Maybe I have to go and correct him and get it done. And sometimes that can even be frustrating. If you're a parent, you know how frustrating that can be. If I tell him to sweep the floor and I know he knows how to sweep the floor, and then I come and check his work and it's terrible and there's still stuff left on the floor, even though I seen him, sweeping the floor, then I know he was not really into it. I know that he purposely didn't sweep the floor well, or he wasn't paying attention to what he was doing. So then I got to fuss at him a little bit like, no, you know how to do this. Do it again. But at other times, if I give him something new or something he doesn't do very often, or the more he does it, the better he'll get at it. So even if I have to fuss at him a couple, 3 times to sweep that floor, after a while, he's going to start doing it right. And that's what we have to do. I know we've been told for many, many years, we don't have to keep these commandments no more. They've been nailed to the cross and all kinds of other lies. And so when you start trying to keep the commandments, sometimes, even when they're simple ones, what may be simple to me may not be so simple to you. It was very simple for me to just stop eating shellfish, even though I loved shrimp and scallops. But for me, it was like, well, that's not a reason to risk spending eternity away from the Father. So, okay, no more shrimp and scallops, no more shellfish. All right. But for you, that might be a little bit harder. You might love it that much where it might be a struggle for you at first, but you might succeed one day and fall the next and try again. You might succeed for 3 days and then fall a day. Try again. But as long as you continue to fight that fight, to practice the righteous acts, to do what the Father told you to do, then you'll get better at it. And the Father will give you grace. And guess what? His mercy, his mercy that's from everlasting to everlasting will be upon you because you fear him. And you're showing him that by doing these commandments to the best of your ability. To such as keep his covenant, verse 18 says. And to those that remember his commandments to do them. That's the point of remembering them, so that we do them. So, I admonish you. I encourage you to, reading is great. Studying is even better. But the point is living. living out these commandments, living out this word, and not necessarily being out there on a soapbox screaming and yelling at people all the time about doing that. Let your light so shine before men that they may glorify your Father who is in heaven. Live the life. People see, people watch, even if they don't acknowledge. It's hard to acknowledge the truth because a lot of times it cuts. A lot of times it cuts and it convicts people of how they're not living when you're living the way you're supposed to. So they're not going to say things a lot of times. They're not going to, oh, good job for you. And you really, I mean, your brothers and sisters who are living the same way, they'll do that. But people that are not living that way but know better, or the Spirit is convicting them through your life and through your actions, they're not going to say anything. And they don't have to. It's not the point. You want your Father to say, well done, thy good and faithful servant. That's who you want to say that. But while we're here doing this work, whether it be you're on the corner on the soapbox yelling it out, or you're being steadfast in your job and everybody's eating pepperoni pizza and you say, well, I'm just not going to eat because I don't eat pepperoni. Well, just pick it off. You know that thing is still tainted and I'm not going to touch it. I'm okay. I won't die. I won't starve to death if I don't have pepperoni pizza. I'll be all right. Or they got shrimp cocktail and, you know, everybody knows you used to love it and all of a sudden now you're not eating it. Why you ain't eating that no more? Well, now I follow the dietary law. The Most High gave me instructions on what I can and cannot eat. So I can't eat that no more. You're taking it too serious. You're taking it too far. Maybe I am. But I believe my eternity is at stake. I believe my soul salvation is at stake. And for me, I'm not willing to gamble that. I'm not willing to risk that. So at the end of the day, I value my soul being in eternity with the Father versus eating some shrimp right now. I mean, even when you say it, doesn't that sound kind of like not even an issue? So, be encouraged, because the mercy of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting. And for those that don't like that, I read it just because, these videos are posted for Israel, not necessarily for people that don't know, but there might be newcomers that are not familiar with the Most High's name and how the Lord is simply a title translated from the Hebrew letters. But and I know there's all kinds of names that we go by: Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yehovah, Ahia, all these names. I'll just say Yah. I'll say Yah, because a lot of people, whatever full name they call on, will agree with Yah. But the mercy of Yah is from everlasting to everlasting upon them that fear him, and his righteousness unto children's children, to such as keep his covenant, and to those that remember his commandments to do them. Have a blessed day, Israel. Shalom.